shine. You know my
Hello and welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Facebook Live. It's so good to be back.
It's so good to be back, and we must apologize. We haven't been live in a couple of weeks.
A little bit.
Yeah. Last week we were in Westgate here in Harare in Zimbabwe, where we were invited to speak to some couples. And the week before we were in South Africa speaking to some more couples. So yeah, it's been hectic, but it's been fun. But we are more than happy to be back with our Facebook family.
Absolutely, and it's wonderful to be back with a bang, with a biggity bang, bang, bang. You know, Isaac Mandengo there says that if someone say love, sex, let's go. Popcorn is ready, feet elevated, smile on my face. Let's do it. Absolutely, let's do it. Tonight we've got a wonderful topic that we have. It's a second part. From what we did, I think maybe some months, a month, 2 months
ago.
back. So please, if you have not watched that one, you will need to go back and watch it so that you can feel the series properly. So yeah, today we are bringing you part 2 of that topic. Initially, we titled it Sex and Love. We was talking about love and sex, that if you are having sex in your marriage, does that mean that there's love? And if you are having love in your marriage, does that mean automatically there's sex? And so that went quite well, and it went in several other directions that we thought, you know what, we can't leave it hanging like that, so we need to bring these guys back and let's have a part 2 of this. But before we start, before we invite them onto the stream, please let us know where you are watching from so that we can give you a big shout out. So far we know that we've got Shepard Kasuso watching. Let us know where you're watching from so that we can just give you a big what you call this, a big Wi-Fi Bluetooth fist bump. Pastor Tandine Love watching from Joburg, West Rand. Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. And also, please do us a favor. Why don't you share this link with your friends on your timelines? We're also coming up on YouTube. So for those of you that have friends or family that are not on Facebook, also tell them that we're on YouTube on our channel, Mr. and Mrs. with Simba and Ivy. They can watch us on YouTube as well. So yeah, please keep those comments coming in. We'd like to give you a big shout out. So tonight we're continuing with the second part of sex in marriage. And I think it has moved a little bit from love and marriage. I think now really it's about sex, no, it's from sex and love. It's really more about the questions that we have concerning sex in marriage. There's a lot that's going on these days. There's a lot of information that's out there. Dr. Google is just pumping out information left, right, and center. And so sometimes we don't really know what to take and what not to take. We don't really know what to filter when it comes to sex in our marriages. And so we thought, you know what? Let's invite a couple who have written a book. Goodness me, we'll talk about that book a little bit later. But we've written a book on sex. We call them sexperts. And I think, they'll be able to answer as many of our questions as possible. So if you've got questions to do with sex in marriage, please type in there. We want to know your questions so that we can ask. Siboniso Raza from Joburg, thank you very much for watching. Crow Hill Shepherd, yeah. Raza Elias Runberg. Beking Corsi watching from Josie. Hey, we got a lot of Josie people watching today. So yeah, before we go any too far in our little monologues, then we're going to invite them onto the stream. Our guests are Dr. Stitch and Francisca Tanyanyiwa. They are authors. they are co-founders of Success Paradigm 101 that empowers people in success and business. They have more than 15 businesses under their belt. In that, they've also founded a ministry called Married and Loving It, which is a coaching organization that ministers to hundreds of marriages. They have authored a book by that title, and they're executive producers of a movie that is coming out by the end of the year, or that same title, Married and Loving It. So we want to give a big welcome back to Dr. Stitch and Francisca. Hey guys,
welcome.
Hey. How are you?
Excited to have you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming through.
To be back.
Yeah, we've tried to link up from the first part, but you know what, busy schedules and all that, and so but now we finally found you. Let me just say this. You know what, we wanted to do when we did a test run of this session, right? When we got them on, they were on their bed.
Yeah, so they were going to have this session from their bedroom.
Unfortunately, because of connection issues, they had to move into another room. But we'll still get them back. We'll still want to see what that bed looks like.
We thought maybe a practical would be ideal. Kind of like fell through.
Yeah. So let's just get straight into it. But I think maybe before we do that, we got the book, y'all. We got the book.
You got the book.
So, hey, let us know if you want this book. If you are in Harare and you want the book, we got copies of the book, $20, 300 Rand. Let us know. We can definitely make a plan to get you this book. You have, after this session and after the first one you watched, you will want to get your hands on this book. So holla at us and we'll make a plan to get you the book.
And you know what's interesting? When we picked up this book, the first thing, so before we picked it up, I just thought, okay, a book on sex. I didn't expect it to have all these pages. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have so much to talk about sex.
We just had to stop halfway, but we'll do part 2 of it.
Oh, wow.
All right, so enough about the book for now. I know definitely from the things that you're going to be talking about, you will be touching here and there from the book. But I think we will also do one full program that we'll dedicate just to the book alone. So when we closed off on the last program, we closed us off on a sex challenge, right? And I'm ashamed to admit that we didn't quite get into the sex challenge, but we will get into that sex challenge. But maybe before we, maybe just walk us through that sex challenge. What was that challenge, and why was it so important, to be able to schedule time to do a challenge like that? Is that all there is in life?
I like that last part of the question. Is that all there is to life?
I mean, really?
I would like to say yes, but my wife may debate. I don't know. Others may debate. I would like to say I think that's about all there is. But no, the sex challenge basically is a challenge for couples to focus on their sex and sexuality for a 30-day period, with the intention of observing changes in their level of communication, level of intimacy and bondedness, level of quality of sleep and refreshment, level of attentiveness and ability to solve problems, level of creativity, and marketplace effectiveness. Because your sex life is actually designed to impact all those areas and more. So the sex challenge, basically, when we started it in our church some years back, the results were, and we didn't know all the stuff we now know because we had to go and research to try and find out why we were getting such amazing results. But there were less fights, less tension, less depression, and less of a spirit of heaviness in the home. And there was a lot of freedom in the marketplace to go out and do business, to be creative in the marketplace. So we suddenly realized that every so often a couple needs to challenge themselves to say, where is our sex life? Where is our intimacy level? And begin to build that in order to get all the desired results.
Sure. I mean, just some of the things that you talk about, success in business, marketplace success is linked to your intimacy, sex in the marriage. I mean, you talk about just stress levels, you talk about communication, talk about spirituality. All of those things are linked. They come out of that pool, that sex pool, if I can call it that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. From a pastoral perspective, what we discovered is you can often tell where a couple is in terms of their sex life and their level of intimacy by their performance in ministry. When the sex is great, they're in church, they're joyful, it's easier to worship, to lift up holy hands, to attend church regularly. But when there's tension at home, they come late, they become erratic in their church attendance, they become uninvolved, they become cold and complacent in serving. So you can tell the sexual atmosphere by the spiritual atmosphere. So everything is quite related and quite connected. So people need to understand the importance of their sex life.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to belabor the whole sex challenge thing, and get on to a lot of other exciting things that we have. One of the things that I noticed in terms of the sex challenge is that one of the things that that the devil doesn't like it, and the impact that it brings and the results is that, whenever you do announce a sex challenge, it's almost all the other challenges come on that that actually take you away from having that bonding and that intimacy. And I mean, we've experienced it, and and each time almost each time we kind of even throw it out to the couples out there, it really becomes something that's almost like such a heavy mountain for us to even achieve. But now I'm actually just thinking, so that just proves how much the devil does not like that. So sometimes the 30-day challenge may seem so much, but the consciousness of it, I think, helps. And I think I'd like to just speak to any couples out there. If it's been a challenge, the first thing you need to do, I think, is just probably take yourself in a 3-day challenge, So start with a 3-day challenge and tell yourselves, this week we're going to go on and have sex 3 times a week, for rather 3 days in a row.
Consecutive,
3 consecutive days. So, so because you may think 30 may be a bit of a stretch. So do 3 days. And then, set yourself on a target. So the following week, we're going to do 4 days in a row. And the following week, we're going to do 5 days in a row. And the following week, we do 6 until you come to a place where you can actually have a whole cycle of 7 full days.
That's right.
And begin to monitor yourselves in terms of how the impact that it has on the relationship, on all the other surrounding factors of the relationship. So I think, I know it's been over 60 days since we last met, and I think that's very important, that because sometimes you may shoot yourself and think, I didn't make the 30-day challenge or something like that, but it doesn't end with, just when there is, a challenge out there. But I think one of the methods is to put yourselves in a challenge, week by week, and see yourselves growing progressively.
Right. So I'm going to go personal here, because I think sometimes it helps to understand how people arrived to where they're at. So how did you guys stumble on this? From day one of your marriage, are you saying you were well versed with the issue of sex and all these things that you're talking about, like the 30-day challenges and all that? Or did you have to go on was it a process for you? What happened for you to get to where you're at right now?
Yeah, it was absolutely a complete process. You know, it was not something that we knew from day one. We didn't know anything. It wasn't working. We didn't have the greatest sex life ever. And but I think so. What helped is that there was just the desire to make it work and to make it happen. There was a desire in terms of just our relationship and our friendship. The desire was there to say, let's make this work. But not only that, because I think our friendship helped, firstly, and secondly, because you are also we from day one we started ministering to couples, and so through ministering to couples as well, that has always helped us. And so this really has been an 18, well, going on to 18 years now, 17-year journey of getting to where we are, and it's just increasingly growing.
The reason why
I'm asking is, what difference have you seen in your own lives from the time that you're talking about, where you're at right now? What tangible things can you say, okay, I've actually seen that from the time we started applying this is what has happened in our lives?
Okay, brilliant question. When we started off, it was quite a mess. I came from a very strong holiness background, where as a youth pastor,
holiness, I think it's a
because
sex is very holy.
Yes. Yeah. So in the environment I came from, sex was I was a youth pastor, and one of my assignments was to keep young people away from
sex.
Yeah. So when I got married, my mind was not renewed to understand that sex was beautiful. In fact, I think for almost 6 months into marriage, I would wake up, and if we had sex last night, I would almost wake up in shock and think, oh my goodness, I've sinned, something's wrong. What did I do? So coming from that background, I was lousy in bed. I didn't understand what sex was. It was always like, let's get it over, let's get it done with. My wife was very
I don't know about being lousy, because we didn't know. In fact, I think it's only you can, in retrospect, you realize that in comparison that what was all that about? But then it was like the best. I mean, you didn't know anything.
That's what you had.
So after a while, you begin to notice that no, there's got to be more. That's where the research came in, and beginning to understand the sexual cycle, the sexual response cycle, beginning to understand the importance of simple things like making sure there's lubrication. And I'm not talking about artificial lubrication, which we're counseled to say you can use artificial lubrication, but I'm talking about the natural process and how your wife arrives at a place where she's ready sexually, and you're not rushing it, and you're not thinking, just get it done and it's over and we sleep. You begin to learn, you begin to study. So in terms of the quality of sex, there's been a major turnaround because of understanding the process, understanding how to make use of erogenous zones, how to make use of the process of taking my wife along with me and not just rushing and so on. But the other side that we see major changes is what I was talking about in terms of how your brain now develops in terms of problem solving, clarity of mind, quality of sleep, the ability to be confident in the marketplace because there's confidence at home and you're not feeling insecure when you're in the marketplace. So that allows you to be an effective communicator, an effective person in selling products. Hence, it translates to greater income, a greater level of articulating yourself and being able to present yourself in a public platform. And all of this came from having that strong bond. Couples that have a strong sense of insecurity and lack of bonding will not be able to project themselves very confidently. So in our lives, we saw that marked difference. And another marked difference for me was my ability to think more clearly. And what I would call cognitive development. It went to an exponential level. Later on, I discovered that there are two primary reasons why that happened. One of them is speaking in other tongues, and the second one is sex. And doctors have proven by putting electrodes on human brains that during sex and during orgasms, there are parts of your brain that become hyperactive at no other time, only during sex and during speaking in other tongues. So those parts of the brain begin to develop well if your sex life is consistent and the quality is high. So I began to realize that the quality of my thinking was shifting based on the quality of the sex. And all of this has now got scientific evidence to prove that there's a connection between your quality of your sex and the quality of your sleep and the quality of your brain development and your ability to develop neural pathways. And all of this is stuff that is in the book.
I think a lot of people, how do you do what you do? I think, our friendship was really bonded through, sex and intimacy. And I think that closeness and that bonding is what really allows us to be able to do some of the crazy things that we do and accomplish. I think it's, it's not really there's a lot of, skill involved in, what you call that, marketplace skills, but I think, the achievement really, I can attribute it to the fact that the strength of the relationship came through that bonding.
Yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned in the last time that we were together is that you said sex is what was the word? That sex is natural, right? Sex is it's a natural. It just happens. Whereas lovemaking needs to be taught. Because the question that we asked was, do we really need to actually talk about this? Do we need to have platforms where we talk about sex, we sit people down and we actually talk about sex? And you said, you know what? No. Love making needs to be taught. Sex is just a natural response. And would you maybe just comment a little bit about that before we also just get into some of the questions that we've got?
Go ahead.
Well, there are two forms of it, and I think there's one, the scientific method, and I mean he always really took, and that's detailed quite a lot in the book as well in terms of the scientific methods behind it. But then there's also the practical aspects of it, and I think that's where one of the greatest thrust comes from in terms of understanding some of the small practical. There's a lot of practical things that you can actually do that can result in you understanding how to make love, because you then realize that wow, there's so many resources out there, just from your own personal, your own body parts firstly, and whether it's foods, and I mean, there's a lot of things that you can. There's so many things that you can actually, outside of sex toys. Not even talking about sex toys. Just talking about you can make use of, juice. I mean, just food and lots of lots of creative things. But I don't know. I don't want to go ahead of myself. But I think let me stop there. But I don't want to go too ahead.
I think that the big thing to think of in terms of your question, the training is necessary. Okay. Because sex is biological. It's erection, horniness, penetration, ejaculation, you're done. Yes. Love making is a process which is 24 hours. Right. It's a 24-hour process. It's a right through the day.
It's enjoyment.
Yes, it's a spiritual and physical connection and emotional connection that goes beyond just the biological expression of my sexuality. Mm-hmm. And the more we've taught on this, the more you hear women saying statements like, you know what, I'm so happy my husband is now taking time to really ask me, am I enjoying this? Is this good? And it's no longer just rushing, getting through, and then falling asleep. And I'm left there. I've never had an orgasm. Don't even know whether orgasms are real. So it does need to be taught. And we've seen dealt with hundreds upon hundreds of couples. And we've seen amazing before and after pictures that will really attest to the fact that we need to teach. I mean, a lot of men are suffering from this thing of it's the biological side. We just... action oriented, we just want to do it, express ourselves, ejaculate, we're happy, we sleep, and we've got unhappy wives that are lying there thinking, is this all there is? No wonder a lot of men will say, my wife doesn't like having sex. My wife doesn't like to make love with me. It's not that she doesn't like making love. It's that she does not like pain. And if you're not in the level of love making, you're causing her pain while you are enjoying the experience. But you are going to enjoy it more if you move her to a place where she's no longer just feeling pain, but she's emotionally, physically, and spiritually involved with you.
But also husbands, there are men that don't know what, understand what love making is. So they also experience pain because it's not working for them. It's not happening.
That's right.
So that's why it's important to be able to teach and bring an understanding, because sex is sexual intimacy is a private and intimate thing. So it's almost like, then how do I learn? Because, I'm not going to go onto the internet to look at pornography. So how do I get to learn what I've not really been exposed to? I mean, even in a home, children have no access to understanding, what sexual penetration and intimacy is. But so it's almost like, so when you get behind closed doors, what actually happens? So it's really the love making is beginning to teach in terms of all the surrounds of it, and also being able to just express or give tools that one can use when they go into their own private space.
Right. All right. Well, okay. So maybe just to now get into some of the questions. So I think we're going to begin with the do's and don'ts. Are there such things as do's and don'ts when it comes to sex in marriage? And we're talking here things like positions and such. Are there things like, these are do's and these are don'ts? Because I know a lot of people struggle with that. Okay, so what are we allowed to do and what are we not allowed to do? Is there such a thing in marriage?
One of it's an interesting question, because we get asked this question almost every sex seminar that we do, and people are kind of looking for us to write something or to give them the rules. And I always say that's a dangerous space to enter into. What we can give is the guidelines that the Word of God has already given. In fact, Paul, writing to the Corinthians, actually says, now concerning the matter that you asked me about, and he was talking about sex. And he says, I have answered this question with all the other churches as well. So it was an FAQ then in the place of Paul as it is now. And then he says, defraud not one another, except for the purposes of prayer and fasting. Don't abstain from sex, but come back together. And then he says, I'm giving this counsel to you as the best counsel to make it work. In other words, he didn't talk about positions. He didn't talk about this position is wrong. So for us to venture into that space would be dangerous, because we're now talking about a conversation that God didn't. Yes. So what we say to couples is the best way to handle it is what is comfortable and acceptable within the confines of your relationship.
Right.
Some couples may find, for example, oral sex to be a put off. It's like, it's yucky. But other couples don't find it as an issue. So the Bible does allude to oral sex in the book of Songs of Solomon. So, and it talks about the wind blowing and the camphor, the breeze. And, when you talk about oral sex, you talk about using either menthol or mints or camphor, which enhances that cool breeze effect, enhancing the intimacy and the enjoyment and the fulfillment. So it is implied that oral sex is okay. So we say to couples, within the confines of your relationship, there are things that you can decide to say, let's do this. We are comfortable with this.
Just like even others, it's also one of the things that also comes up on those do's and don'ts is, do you have sexual intimacy during a woman's menstruation and all of that? So it's that's another example of the comfort of the couple, so it's not a thing of don't do or do. It's all a matter of the comfort.
But doesn't medical counsel also come in there as maybe reference to what is said concerning that particular aspect medically?
Which aspect? Sorry, I missed that.
Like the one that she has just mentioned, like having sex during the menstrual cycle.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. There is no. I know there's a lot of myths that come along with sex during menstruation, to say your penis will burn, it'll fall off, it'll get small, and so on. From a medical perspective, there is no medical condition that comes as a result of having sex during menstruation, unless there is other existing conditions.
Right.
If the doctor does tell you that because of this condition or this situation, it'll be best for you to avoid it, then you can. If there is a reservation about blood, then you know the cycle goes to peaks at a certain time when the flow is much greater than at other times. So you just learn to be sensitive and select a time when the flow is not so intense, or you just choose to do it in the shower, where whether the flow is too strong or too what, in the shower, it's not going to have any major implication in terms of your toiletries and your towels and all the other stuff that you're using during the process. So it's again goes back to that element of couples preference.
Mm-hmm.
Where does conscience come in on this?
Conscience is, I don't want to violate my wife. I don't want her to do what is uncomfortable. So if oral sex and she feels uncomfortable, I'm not going to violate her conscience. Conscience from an us perspective, it should be based and built on what the Word of God is instructing us. Right. So our conscience should be based on what is the Word of God saying to us. And as we practice what we're practicing, do we sense the Holy Spirit is telling us, that's a no-go zone. That's an area that is wrong for you to go into. So you withdraw. Yes, you're constantly sensitive to what the Holy Spirit is saying and what your spouse is saying.
Oh, okay. So what I'm getting from you is, when it comes to that question of do's and don'ts, it's your guidance from your conscience as well, so you don't violate each other. It's also the taking time to find out what certain things can do to your body in terms of medically. And then it's also, what was the other thing you mentioned? You spoke about talking to each other, just making sure that the other is okay. And I think that really helps in terms of...
And it doesn't violate biblical principles.
Yes.
What do you
so it doesn't violate biblical principles, and therefore the aspect of pornography and all that is taken out, because that becomes a violation of a biblical principle.
Right. So then what do you do in a situation where, okay, it's conscience based, not necessarily a biblical violation, but you have a spouse who has a conscience that is saying no, but the other one is saying yes. And then the one who's saying no will end up giving in because they don't want to then maybe deny their spouse. And then, fear that if they deny them, they may go and get it elsewhere, because that conversation, we've had that conversation, and the fact that we've had it means you're thinking about it. The fact that you're thinking about it means you want it. And if I say no, I'm not going to give it to you because it violates my conscience, I'm afraid that you may, be so curious that you go and get it elsewhere. How do you, address a situation like that in the marriage?
Okay. I think the couple will need to really have a candid conversation about that, to say, let's talk openly. And I mean, a great sex life, one of the prerequisites of a great sex life is open, candid conversation. Now, the one who is saying their conscience does not want them to do that, we then have to go back and say, is your conscience based on the Word of God? For example, I used to have issues with women that wear pants because I grew up in Bulawayo. I was conservative about Christian women that would wear pants because I thought pants were very demonic and evil and so on. So my conscience...
It's all about background and teachings.
Yes. So when I began to get myself into the Word of God, I began to realize that God doesn't have an issue with pants, with
No, when
trousers,
you
and
saw
so
a
on.
pretty woman who spoke the word of God with fire and she was wearing totally confused.
That's her story.
That's what he's always said. You know, he says, this woman, no, when I met her, it's like, what? She's full of the word, she's passionate, and but she's wearing jeans. It's like this, you know, that was never, you know, jeans were so unholy. So how did this one how could she be holy and fired up and wearing jeans? So you went back to revisit his story.
So your point is your conscience, check where it's coming from. Is it because of background, what you were taught, or is it because of the word of God really instructs on that particular thing?
Exactly. So just to add one more point on that, so you'd find that some couples find it difficult to be adventurous because the wife, for example, grew up in an environment that she was taught that the wife is a missionary. So it's always missionary position. So she feels anything that is outside of that is not godly. So that becomes a conscience that is based on the religion and the teaching of a family or maybe even a congregation, but it's not what God is saying. So there's got to be a renewing of their minds to say, oh, okay, we can step into that. But you actually do find sometimes it's the man who just wants the missionary and the woman really wants some adventure, and the man is afraid to be adventurous because he thinks it's out of line with the will of God.
One wants to be adventurous, and then you'll think, where did you get that from? That just happened, you know?
Yeah.
So one thing I picked up, so when I was browsing through your book, one thing that I picked up was when you're talking about sex, the greater sex life, it sounds like to achieve that, you need to be somebody who's confident in their own skin. How do you address a situation where maybe it's the wife or it's the husband who feels very conscious, self-conscious with your body? Because for you to be able to allow your spouse to explore and all that, you've got to be confident. But if that confidence is lacking, how do you manage that as a couple?
The spouse that has the confidence has to become a confidence coach. They actually have to work on helping. And it's usually the ladies that have issues of thinking my breasts are too big, my breasts are too small, my bums are too big, my stomach. So there's this confidence thing of thinking. And sometimes the men are thinking my rifle or my pellet gun is too small. All the other guys have rifles. So it's about that, again, going back to that conversation to say, no, I enjoy your breasts. And you see that in Proverbs and in Songs of Solomon, that both of them were very candid about appreciating each other. It says your breasts are like the twin fawns and this and that. So he's describing, and once she begins to feel he enjoys my breasts, she becomes more free to express her breasts to him. But if he's derogatory and negative and saying, oh, Chicho, what kind of body is that? You must lose weight, you must go to the gym. Oh, you're too skinny, you must eat some food. What he's doing is the derogatory conversation causes her to become more closed and more withdrawn and not expressive, because the height of intimacy that is expressed is based on the level of vulnerability. How much can I make myself vulnerable to you and just relax in your presence and not feel bad about my stomach and not feel bad about the cellulite and about the love handles and the twin towers that are now fallen heroes and so on. You need to continually be affirmative in your conversations in the bed so that you feel confident about the assets that you're bringing into the love making.
And I also think, then even as a personal individual, I think always work on yourself to be the best for you and for your spouse. So while it's important to speak the right words to one another to bring in the encouragement and the motivation. But I think it's very important. Don't let yourself loose. Don't let that stomach just hang out. Don't let the one pack just develop more and more. And don't allow yourself to have bad breath, bad smells, all that stuff. I think it's very important that you also always come to a place where you want to present yourself neat, smell good, be fresh and healthy. So I think it's you may be big, but you groom yourself well. You may be skinny, you groom yourself well. I think that's vital.
That's so good, because I was actually going to ask just before you came in there that what about a couple where you are genuinely actually put off by what's now hanging out and what's now coming out and think that maybe initially things were not like that, and eventually as you went, certain things started popping out and certain things started showing up where they were not before. And so if you're in a situation like that, you don't want to hurt your spouse by being honest and saying, "Child, your tummy, I'm not happy with the tummy, I'm not happy with the breath," or I think you just suck it up, you suck it in. So what do you do in a situation also like that? But I like what you said, that you also have to be conscious as the individual to work on yourself, to make sure that you present yourself.
The Bible does say we must be in good health, even as our soul prospers. We must be in good health. And I think we've got to understand, really, I think let me actually just emphasize this about good health. It's important to realize that part of good health is you've got to work on yourself and exercise. I think there are many couples, many people out there that just think that I don't need to lift a finger. I don't need to take a walk. I don't need to take a run. I don't need to do some form of exercise. I think it's very, very important to realize that exercise to your body is good because guess what? It also gives you long life. So I think you're selfish to yourself, to your spouse, to your children if you don't exercise.
Whoa.
Thank you. I am closing my circles. Check. I close circles. Yeah. I close circles and I got awards for it. And so I was telling her that I'm closing my circles and I'm doing it because of you. I'm standing up. I'm exercising. I'm walking.
Well, honestly, I think let's do that because we're just used to exercising muscles of eating and nothing else, and sleeping and going to work and coming back. But I think we really need to put in a health exercise somewhere and work on our bodies.
Okay, so what are some of the things that can help us to improve our sex drive? Because I'm imagining that for someone to be having sex for 30 days continuous, the sex drive has to be there. So what can we do if you feel like, I struggle with my sex drive, it's really low? What can we do to improve it?
I think firstly, really, it's dealing with it in the mind. So we have to come to a point where, Paul himself says, I would that, you do not, what does it actually say, Paul, the scripture, and that, abstain just for a little while for the purpose of prayer and fasting. So he already implies that we should not abstain from sex and intimacy, from sexual intimacy. So how do we get there? So that's why I'm saying, firstly, it's just a matter of the mind. You've got to tell yourself that, it's like you don't even, in your conscious mind already tells you I must eat food every day. You actually make a conscious effort to not eat food. Daily food is so automatic.
Yes.
I think that's what must be key and must be taught in terms of the power of sexual intimacy in marriage.
Right.
It shouldn't be something that we actually should be thinking about, let me do it. But it's one of those you actually go on and on. I think, in fact, the teaching that we need to bring in even to our children, because for us, it's something that we're working on, because you actually come to a point of realizing that if it had been taught to realize that this thing it's not a thing of, you go for a day and then 2 days and then you stop and then whatever. When you make a decision to get married, you are making a decision that sexual intimacy is part of your everyday life, full stop.
Wow.
I was counseled and I was told, no, make sure you don't do it every day. He's a pastor, so sometimes he travels and then what happens? So I'm telling you, so you realize there's a lot that you have to renew. But, my children...
I had to bind that counseling.
My children will get into my children get into marriage knowing that they're making a decision to get married is making a decision to understand that, listen, sexual intimacy is as automatic as they eat it. They
Yeah.
So we've got to renew ourselves to get to that. And I think, to many of our viewers and listeners and a lot of us in this generation, it's something that was really never taught. So we are discovering these things and realizing, let's renew ourselves there. So if you want to improve your sex life, if the sex drive seems low, firstly, work on that in your mind. Secondly, in your mind. Yes. Secondly, then make it creative. Make it creative. I always say, there's basic foods that we eat every single day. It's either chicken, beef, fish, whatever. But how it's cooked is so different.
Right.
How it's cooked is so different. So we have many restaurants out there serving chicken. But the taste of Nando's, the taste of KFC, the taste of chicken wings, chicken licken, the taste of, all these other, chicken restaurants and what have you, they're all different.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. It's the same chicken. I'm telling you, the thigh is the same. The breast, it's the same. But they taste
the thigh and the breast. I like that.
They taste totally different. Therefore, one of the things we need to do is become creative. Think of, when I cook, I think I tell myself, I don't want to do the same thing every single day. And so ask yourself, when I get into bed, I don't want to do the same thing every single day.
Yeah.
So we literally lower our sexual drives when we just don't make the effort of telling yourself, what new thing can I do today? How can I become creative? Because if you eat the same type of, roast chicken is great, but if you eat roast chicken every single day, you come to a point where you don't like roast chicken. You don't like this, and it's great, but when you do it every day, it's it just becomes whatever. So I think it's very important, and I think we have where's this coupon? So we've got the book, but we've also got 6 coupons. They actually have taken them out. Yes, taking them out of the
coupons. We know coupons for fuel. We don't know coupons for sex.
So in this container, same concept. So they come in a container, and there's 30 of them. So these also 30 great ideas in terms of how to bring about that intimacy. Lots of great things to do. So we've got a whole wide variety and menu right there in terms of just other ideas that you can do. And so I think
if
how does that work?
Read one. I just want to read one.
Now I'm worried. I may be asked to do what you're going to do. Please pick a simple one.
Let me talk. I want to pick one of my favorites. While you talk.
While I talk.
Yes, there's one I'm looking for here.
Oh, okay.
Excellent.
Okay, she's going to tell you about how the coupons work. But it's important to understand that if we're talking about sex drive, this conversation comes up quite a bit. And people say, I've got a low sex drive. My sex drive is low. And it has become an excuse where we say we cannot succeed because I've got a low sex drive. Now, that's a position of lethargy or laziness, where you're absolving the responsibility of having a great sex life to something else. Your sex drive is based on either your physical or your emotional or your spiritual component. If it is physical, we're talking about health. It goes back to fitness. It goes back to reduce your alcohol intake. If you're a Christian, you shouldn't be taking alcohol. Well, it depends on some churches that believe you can. But your alcohol impedes your libido, your smoking and nicotine and all of these. If it is a physical thing, it's either get healthy, get your heart rate, your blood pumping properly, get the physical side right. If it is emotional, get the emotions right, get your thinking right, which is what Dr. Francisco was talking about. If your thinking is always, I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired. And there are many women that have actually put their minds into I'm tired mode. They're trying to fix their husband or trying to communicate to him, you're making me clean, do the babies, do this and do that. I always say to couples, ladies must say, because I've worked so much, I must have sex. Not because I've worked so much, I should not have sex.
I like that one. I like it. I like it a lot. Because I've had such a hectic day,
I must have
sex.
I must have sex. Exactly.
I must have sex.
Stress,
Because
I can
I'm not
understand.
thinking right. I must have sex.
Not
Because
right.
I'm in need. I love you. I love you.
I get you on. I'm stressed. I must have sex and everything else. But I've worked so hard. I must have sex. How do the two tie? Because I'm tired. And also there's it's physical. It's demanding on my body physically. So how do the two tie?
Okay. God designed sex to be a source of refreshment, not a cause of fatigue. So this is how it works. When you have a stressful day, you're working, you're doing all of this, your cortisol levels are very high, and other negative hormones are being released. That creates that tense atmosphere. But when you now make love, that allows you to now produce and release hormones that mend, that restore, that revitalize, that strengthen, that rebuild your whole body, and that allows you to go into a state called deep sleep, which is REM sleep, random eye movement sleep. And when you get into random eye movement sleep, when you wake up, you are refreshed. So you go to bed and he's stressed, you're stressed, and you're telling each other we're not going to have sex. Guess what? It's 30 minutes before you sleep. And you're already thinking negatively. Cortisol levels have gone high, and your blood pressure, attitudes, everything have gone high. You wake up in the morning, guess what? Your fatigue cycle continues. You're not refreshed. So God designed sex to be
God is so good.
So my brother.
It's all in the mind, because and what we've been taught, because we've really never come to a point where you come home and say, I'm so tired, I'm too tired, I can't even eat. But your mind is already telling you, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I need to refresh. So that's how we need to review sex. Anyway, so one of and I was trying to look at the die, I couldn't find it. It says the lottery. So throw the dice to do a list of 6 of your spouse's favorites to do things. Let them throw the dice and select what you will give them. And the other one also, when you throw a dice, and then the number that the number that's facing up on the die is the number of rounds that you will have, and stuff like that.
Speaking of rounds, so I've got to ask this. Is it everyone? Because I know that people kind of put pressure on each other when it comes to rounds, because you hear someone say we've had we can go as much as 6 and a night and things like that.
And when someone hits once, they are
gone,
done, like finished completely.
So is it everyone that can have multiple rounds? And is the issue multiple rounds, or the issue is the quality? I understand frequent sex, like we've been talking about, but is it the quality or the number of rounds?
Well, it's definitely on the quality, and definitely people have different, sex drives and what have you. I mean, it's everything, can be compared to, even, I don't know why the food keeps coming up. We have different appetites. Some people can take mountains, some people cannot. So I think it's very important when you come to a place of intimacy, you begin to understand one another's, sexual drives, or how many rounds one can take. Some people, listen, all it takes is 1 round to get everything that you need. And there's some people that can go on for 2-3 rounds, and what have you. So it's not really about the number of rounds. It's really all about the sexual satisfaction that comes in. And so, and I think, but you can train yourself to actually come to a place where you can have frequent sexual intimacy on a daily basis.
To help from a scientific perspective, this is how it works. And ladies would understand the breast milk concept more than they will understand the sexual side. a woman who's with a baby, the rate of milk production is based on the demand
Yeah.
of the baby. So if the baby is drinking a lot more milk, mother will produce more. But if the baby begins to reduce demand, there will be less production. So from a biological perspective, it's the same with men. If men are in a relationship, for example, where you're having sex 2-3 times a week, your system kind of begins to reduce its production to the demand of the 2-3 times a week. But if you begin to increase it, the production also increases because the factory produces based on a supply and demand process. But again, talking again to the ladies, if the ladies begin to understand that the quality of the sex is often also closely related to the delayed release or orgasm for the men. That's why women will say, my husband is a 2-minute noodle. By the time he's gone in, it's already soft and it's not working properly. But that's often because the couple are suffering from infrequent sex. So what happens is if you're having sex 2-3 times a week, he's already loaded and ready to release. And on entry, and sometimes not even before entry, he's already releasing. So by the time he's released, the penis becomes soft, and that compromises the quality of her enjoyment because there's a shorter period with which he's going to have a firm erection to stimulate her. So it's important that they understand that sometimes if he releases quickly, wait for a few minutes, and then begin to stimulate him again. Because now on round number 2, he has less semen to release. The erection is going to last longer than round number 1. So often round number 1 is for him, and round number 2 will be for her. So it's now learning the art of balancing that cycle and the delivery.
Right. Oof, wow. You know what? We're fast running out of time, but before I've got to pack in these two. This one question. I think we did touch a little bit on it, but I think maybe let's just really get into it. Sex toys. I recently read an article, I think, and it was talking about how sex toys in Zimbabwe, particularly, it's a booming business right now, and there's so many people that are selling that are into these sex toys, and so many people that are buying sex toys. Are sex toys okay to use in a marriage? Number one. Number two, after sex toys, there are sex enhancing things, unnatural sex, not things that are not organic, that are used to enhance sex. So like your pills, tablets. So like your Congo dust, for instance, we have what is called Congo dust. I don't know if it's there in South Africa, but in Zimbabwe there's Congo dust. There is those coffees. They sell coffees, all sorts, to enhance, to maximize the erections and such. What's your take on all of that?
Okay, based on both scientific evidence and experience in terms of dealing with couples, we strongly discourage what people would refer to as sex toys. And sex toys are things that you go and buy, like your dildos, your vibrators, etc., etc. The reason being, what happens when you're now using a vibrator, you're using a dildo, etc., is you activate what is called the law of diminishing returns.
Right.
So a vibrator vibrates and they come with speeds. It has speed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. I don't know how high it goes, but it's got speeds. But a penis doesn't. So now the challenge that comes in is, once you get used to a vibrator giving you an orgasm, it means diminishing returns means you're no longer getting an orgasm or enjoyment from a penis. So dysfunction sets in. Now you're looking for alternatives. Now sooner or later the vibrator is not enough. So now you need 3 of them. Now you need groupies. Now you need all kinds of dysfunction. So that's where the concept comes in, when debauchery begins to set into the marriage. So toys are strongly discouraged for that primary reason. And then the other side of it is, God has given us as couples sufficient amount of toys that we can use on our anatomy. And when you learn to master the use of the human anatomy as a toy, then you are in a good space. Because I always say, instead of going to buy a vibrator, you've got one in your mouth. You've got to learn how to use your vibrator. So when you learn how to use the concept of sexual fulfillment is now mutual. It's not something that I can pursue. She's at work or I'm at work and she says, oh, okay, he's not here, but I've got a substitute. That creates a problem. The bed must be a place of mutuality. That's what the Bible says. It's a place of mutuality. We are working to fulfill each other and meet each other's needs.
And I also think of the foods. God has given us healthy, balanced diet so that in the foods, we have all the nutrients that we need to give us the required energy and oomph and all of that. But I think when we come to a place where we're now taking specific teas or coffees or whatever, Congo dust and stuff, that it's almost now like, taking a drug. Actually, because now it's become something that it's almost a comparison to a drug, and therefore you're now probably violating the natural process of how your body should actually function. So if you come to a point where now you can't do without the drug, you can't actually do without it. So you'll find that if you've used it for a extended period of time, when you stop using it, you actually probably can find yourself in a place where now you can have other complications that can set in, or you come to a place where you find yourself totally malfunctioning. So I think it's always important to keep it well balanced within, the nutrients that can be received from all the healthy, good food substances that God gives us to partake of.
Wow.
Woo. Our time is up.
This was loaded. Well, this was absolutely loaded, and I can understand why this book is so so big. It's so thick. So again, everything that they have spoken about, you will find it in this book, The Greatest Sex Life Ever. So you definitely need to get a copy. Please let us know if you're not in Zimbabwe, for instance, where you can get. If you're in Zimbabwe, you know what, we can hook you up. So let us know. You can type in the comment section or inbox us or whatever, and we can see how we can make sure that you get this book if you're in Zim. If you're outside Zimbabwe,
you can go to our website, drtich.com, drtich.com. We've got a shop there, an online shop, so you can buy it as an EPUB, or you can place an order for a physical copy, and we'll arrange courier to you to get it.
All right.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much. We're gonna enjoy this. We will read it. We'll read it together. We'll make sure that we do at least maybe a chapter a day, and take notes and ask questions. And this is gonna be pretty fun. So awesome stuff. We have had a wonderful hour with you guys, talking and asking questions. So I know that you are online, very much online. You've got pages. Let us know your pages so that people still have questions or things that they may want to ask concerning. I absolutely love how you talk from a spiritual perspective, physical perspective, and most importantly from a scientific perspective, because we have so many people that don't really, maybe they're not necessarily Christians, but science, everybody understands science. And so we love how you have been able to do the research. You spend time digging into it, bringing out the scientific side of things, which really, at the end of the day, the scientific just simply confirms what's in the Bible, confirms the spiritual. So, you know what? Thank you so much. We've had such a wonderful time. Please let everybody that's watching know how they can get a hold of you outside of your website, but maybe on your Facebook or social media handles.
Oh yeah, we are very active on Facebook. So Dr. Tich Tanyanyua and Francisca Tanyanyua, very active there. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter as well. So you are able to get all our contact details, inbox us, get in touch with us. We do a lot of marriage coaching, marriage enhancement, marriage development, etc. So we are very, very active on social media. If you need help, if you need coaching, marriage coaching, sex coaching, we are here.
Nice. Awesome.
Thank you
Guys,
so much.
thank you.
Almost in its final stages and released this year. The movie is going rocking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
we're
doing the premiere in August for the movie.
We are there.
We're there.
We're there for the
There.
premiere.
Our anniversary.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. We'll definitely be calling you back. This is not the last time. We will be seeing you again. And we'll continue to see you again and again and again and again, because we need to make these marriages work, and we need to have people have the greatest sex life ever, and we need people to be married and loving it. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
We love you
you.
guys. Keep up the good work. We honor and celebrate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yo,
Wow.
boom, bada boom, bada boom.
Wow.
That was good. You know, that
Wow.
was so good. I had fun. I enjoyed myself, and this is really good practical stuff. You know, things that you can actually start doing today, tonight, even. You know, with your spouse. So
I like
you know,
someone sent a message there in the comment, says they're about to get active. So I'm trying to imagine how active.
come on now, go get active and have the greatest sex life ever. And the greatest sex life ever is had every single day, where you look back and you say, you know what, today was better than what we've had in the past, and you continue to increase and you know, elevate your sex life. And you know, it's amazing that in this season, in this generation, we have people like these doctors, teaching and Francisca, who can help us, who can, you know, point to us the direction, point us you know, the way, and answer some of the questions that we may have. So let's really make use of all these people that we have at our disposal to make sure that we definitely do have the greatest sex lives ever, and that we are married and we're enjoying our marriages, and that we're making our marriages work. So thank you so much. Yes, get a dice, get a dice, and throw that die in there.
Throw the dice tonight.
Come on, get creative, get creative. You know what? Just go for it and enjoy it, guys. We only live once, and so we want to go at the end of the day when we are being called by our Maker. I want to be able to look back and say, you know what? We had the best lives. We enjoyed ourselves. We had a wonderful marriage, and we really had a great time as husbands and wives. So
baby, I promise that from now on, I won't say I'm so tired, I need to sleep. I will say I'm so tired
I need sex.
that I need sex. I have to practice saying it first, saying it to myself.
Yes, come on, go in the mirror and say, ladies out there, gentlemen out there, practice it. I have a headache. I need sex. Yes, I'm not feeling well. I need sex. I'm stressed. I need sex. I'm sleepy. I need sex.
I'm anxious, baby.
I'm anxious. Yes, I'm anxious. I need sex. I'm worried. I need sex.
Okay.
Sex is the remedy. It's a come on, guys. Come on, let's get this done. You can tell how excited I am about this. But thank you so much for watching again. Please share this link. This video will be available straight after this for people that were not able to connect live. So we want to make sure that it goes all over the place so that people can watch it and can get help and can, you know, have amazing sex lives. So please click on the share button and share it on your timelines, and also let those that are not on Facebook know that it is also on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Please go on our YouTube channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel, please, so that you can get all the notifications. It's Mr. and Mrs. with Simba and Ivy on YouTube as well. So,
all right,
we're
good.
Been fun. My name is Simba,
and I'm Ivy.
but you can call us Mr. and Mrs. And remember,
keep on loving.
Keep on loving, and good night.